In today's lesson, we're going to be talking about solving proportion equations. This goes along with yesterday's learning target of I can recognize and solve multi-step equations with variables on both sides of the equal sign involving rational numbers. All right, a reminder of how to solve a proportion. When we solve a proportion, we're going to use the cross product property, which means that we're going to multiply diagonally to get an equivalent equation. So for instance, when we have A over B equals C over D, we multiply A times B, and then we'll multiply B times C and set them equal to each other. And in this case, B does not equal 0 and D does not equal 0 because they're down here in the denominator, and we can't divide by 0. Let's take a look at an example of that. So we have D over 48 equals 3/4. So if we wanted to solve this proportion, we would take D times 4, which is 4D, and we would set that equal to 48 times 3. It's going to give us 144. All right, now that we have that, we're going to just solve this like a one-step equation, divide both sides by 4, and we're left with D equals 36. All right, that part should be a review from last year. So let's move into something that's a little bit more complicated. All right, let's take a look at this one. Notice this one has got an expression up here in the numerator. That's okay. I'm going to show you what we need to do here. So we'll start by cross multiplying with 5 times x minus 2. That's going to look like this. 5 times, and make sure that you multiply it by everything. So we're going to put all of that in parentheses. X minus 2. Notice how I've got the 5 out here and the parentheses right here. That shows me that I'm multiplying the 5 not just by the x, but by the x minus 2. And I'll set that equal to 4 times 2, which is 8. Okay, so I've got 5 times x minus 2 equals 8. Now I can solve this like a multi-step equation. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 2 is 10. Equals 8. Add 10 to both sides, leaving me with 5x equals 18. Divide both sides by 5. And my answer is going to be that x equals 3.6. That's how I would solve that equation. Please do not forget that when you're multiplying across, like we did right here, to take that number, that 5, and multiply it by everything in the numerator. So the 5 times the x and the 5 times the minus 2. Let's try another one. Okay, here we have 1 over 4y minus 4 equals 15 over 10. We're going to start by cross multiplying. 10 times 1 is just 10 equals 4y minus 4 times 15. I think the easiest thing to do here is to take that 15 and put it on the outside of a set of parentheses where we've got 4y minus 4 here. The only reason I'm putting the 15 first is because it looks a little nicer than writing 4y minus 4 with the 15 on the other side, okay? Because then we can remember to actually distribute here, where this one we might forget. Okay, so we can just leave the 10 alone, but let's distribute that 15. We're going to go ahead and do 15 times 4, which will give us 60y. Minus 15 times 4, which is 60. So now we have 10 equals 60y minus 60. We'll finish solving that equation by adding 60 to both sides, leaving us with 70 equals 60y. Then we'll divide both sides by 60, leaving us with 7/6 equals y. You could also put 1 and 1/6 equals y. I would accept either one. Or if you wanted to write that as a decimal, I would also accept 1.16 repeating equals y. Any of those answers is okay on a test. However, there is one more thing that we have to pay attention to. Remember how when we have A over B equals C over D, B cannot equal 0, and D cannot equal 0. So we're going to talk about something in this particular problem called an exclusion. Whenever you see a problem like this where you've got a variable in the denominator, you need to take a look at what we need to exclude from our answer. So we already know that our answer is 7/6 or 1 1/6 or 1.16 repeating. However, we also need to realize that 4y minus 4 cannot equal 0. So let's figure out what y can't equal in this case. We'll do that by solving for y. So we've got 4y equals 4. Divide both sides by 4. And we find out that y cannot equal 1. Okay, so the reason y cannot equal 1 is because if we were to plug it into here, and we did 4 times 1 is 4, minus 4, that would make this 0, and we cannot have 0 in the denominator. So in this particular case, not only do we have a solution, but we also have what we call an exclusion, where we exclude a number from our answer. All right, here's one where we have an expression in both fractions. Don't panic if you see this. Just do the same thing, cross multiply. We would not have to have an exclusion in this problem because there is no variable in either of the denominators. 10 times x plus 2. So we'll put the 10 on the outside, x plus 2 in parentheses, and set that equal to 4 times 2x plus 2. So 4 times, in parentheses, 2x plus 2. Now we can go ahead and distribute on both sides. So we'll do 10 times x to get us 10x. 10 times 2 will get us 20. Equals 4 times 2 to get us 8x. And 4 times 2 to get us 8. So now we have 10x plus 20 equals 8x plus 8. Remember that when we have variables on both sides of the equation, we need to start by getting all the variables on the same side. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 8x from both sides, just because I would like to keep my variables positive. So I'm going to end up with 2x here, plus 20 equals 8. And then I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my 20, subtracting 20 from both sides. That will leave me with 2x equals negative 12. Then I can divide both sides by 2, which will leave me with x equals negative 6. And I'm all done. Notice we have a fraction with an expression on the top and the bottom. We're just going to do the same thing we did in the last one. 10 times y plus 2. So 10 times, in parentheses, y plus 2. Don't forget those parentheses. Equals 2y minus 4 times 5. So I'm going to put the 5 on the outside. And then 2y minus 4. Do not forget your parentheses. Now I'm going to multiply the 10 to the y. We've got to distribute to get 10y. And then 10 times 2 to get plus 20. Equals, we've got 5 times 2y will get us 10y. And then 5 times minus 4 will give us minus 20. Okay, now I need to get all of my variables on the same side of the equation. So I'm going to subtract 10y from both sides. That's going to leave me with 20 on the left and negative 20 on the right. Now wait a second. I think I remember something from yesterday's lesson that told me that if my variables go away, I'm either going to have all real numbers or no solution. So let's take a look at this. This says 20 equals negative 20. Well, that's never going to happen, so our answer is no solution. All right, so our answer is no solution. However, notice over here, we have a variable in the denominator. So we also need to figure out what our exclusion is. So to find the exclusion, meaning what we have to exclude from our answer, or what y cannot equal, we'll take that denominator, 2y minus 4, and we'll set it unequal to 0, right? Or you could just say you're setting it equal to 0. And then we'll solve for y. So we'll add 4 to both sides, leaving us with 2y equals 4. Divide both sides by 2, leaving us with y equals, or y cannot equal 2. So our exclusion in this particular problem is that y cannot equal 2. All right, let's take a look at one more example. Here we have x plus 3 over 2x plus 6 equals 1/2. So first thing we're going to do is cross multiply. 1 times 2x plus 6, which is just going to be 2x plus 6. Well, you can put the 1 out front if you want to, and we'll distribute that 1. Equals 2 times x plus 3. So if we distribute that 1 times 2x is 2x, 1 times 6 is 6. So we have 2x plus 6 equals 2 times x is 2x, 2 times 3 is 6, so 2x plus 6. So now we're left with 2x plus 6 equals 2x plus 6. We've got to get all the variables on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides, leaving me with 6 on the left and 6 on the right. Now all my variables went away, so that means this is either no solution or infinitely many solutions, or all real numbers. Sorry, all real numbers. So this is either no solution or all real numbers. Well, 6 will always equal 6, which means this is all real numbers. But wait, there's one more thing I have to check before I'm done. I have a variable over here in the denominator, which means I have an exclusion on this problem. So let's set 2x plus 6 unequal to 0. Okay, to find our exclusion. And solve for x. So if I subtract 6 from both sides, I end up with 2x cannot equal negative 6. Then I'll divide both sides by 2 to find out that x cannot equal negative 3. So earlier I said that all real numbers would work, but actually they won't, because we cannot have a 0 here in the denominator That means that x cannot equal -3. So we would say that our solution is all real numbers excluding -3. Or if you were to write this for me, all real numbers that x cannot equal -3, I would also accept that on the test if you want to write it.